with the Successful
Blog
Life.
Talk Radio.
We're going to be talking Successful Life podcast with Chris Partridge, linebacker coach, special teams coordinator at Michigan. He'll be calling in a couple of minutes with us. For all you athletes that are out there, just give you guys a great background on Coach. Coach started out as a high school coach at Paramus Catholic High School, built them into a major power, one of the guys that you would know real well. That's going to be drafted probably in at least the first 2 rounds, but could go as high as top 15 pick in the NFL is Jabrill Peppers. So we'll have Coach on shortly to discuss, his rise into the college ranks now with Michigan, where he's a special teams coordinator. He's also known as one of the top recruiting coordinators in the country. So we'll have Coach on in a little bit about that. So it's going to be pretty cool to have Coach on. We should be having him on in any minute. A real quick background again for those of you guys who are coming on the podcast live. Coach Partridge coached in college for a little while before he stepped away from the college ranks. Played his football, I believe, at Lafayette, and we'll let him talk about that. But then took over Paramus Catholic High School, where he turned Paramus Catholic into a national power, led by one of the star players that he just had at Michigan, Jabrill Peppers, among many other Division I players that he had there. Took them into a place, Paramus Catholic, those of you guys don't know, New Jersey was, everybody knows about the parochial schools, was one of the lesser of the top-tier parochial schools. He turned them into the top tier of the top-tier parochial schools into a national power. Now is the special teams coordinator and linebacker coach at Michigan, also known as one of the top recruiters in the country. Without further ado, let me bring on Coach Partridge. Coach, how's everything going?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
Good. I'm glad to get you on and talk a little bit of football. I'm sure you talk it all day long, so there's nothing better for you than talking that.
It's all good, man. I appreciate you having me.
Like I said, give a little bit of backdrop, and I want the people to really know your background because I know that you were in college. I remember back when I was the head coach of Saddlebrook High School, you were, I want to say, at the Citadel, maybe as a GA or as assistant coach, and then you stepped away briefly from coaching and then took over Paramus Catholic, turned into a power, and obviously now you're doing some amazing things at Michigan. Give everybody a little bit of your background.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Yes, I was at the Citadel. I had, I graduated from Lafayette, and I went back there to coach after graduation, and was there for a year working with the defensive backs and kind of same coaching staff that had coached me. And then after a year, I had the opportunity to go down to the Citadel. A guy by the name of Kevin Higgins took the head job down there, and he had been the coach of Lehigh when I played at Lafayette. So I kind of knew him through, I guess, playing against him. Obviously, Lafayette-Lehigh, a big rivalry. So had the opportunity to go down there and coach, work with the D-line, which was awesome, great experience, and, stepped away from football from there. Well, not necessarily stepped away, but I went into the business world there as a kind of a capital markets technology recruiter for a couple of years. But at that time, I was actually coaching Westwood youth football, which was an awesome thing. And, it's funny. It's like that teaches you a lot when you got to coach the young guys, and we had a really good team, and so that was fun. But missed the kind of the higher level of coaching, and was thinking about jumping back into the high school world and still working and running that business that I was running. And Paramus Catholic came open, and obviously that's where I played, and so I went after the job there, and I was able to get it. I was fortunate. It was the same president that was there when I went to school there, so I was able to get that job. And and then about 3 months into it, I said, if I'm going to do this, there's no way that I can do the business thing as well. And so I stepped away from the business and went full-time back into coaching and working in Paramus Catholic.
That's really
and then
cool. And
from there,
I
came up to Michigan.
Absolutely, and you built a major powerhouse there, and those people who are not from New Jersey really changed the landscape. Built such a powerhouse with so many great players at Paramus Catholic, and then obviously moved on to Michigan. What when you started coaching at Paramus Catholic, did you think that was going to one day lead to you going back to college coaching, or were you just thinking about building Paramus Catholic back into a powerhouse?
I was just mainly thinking about winning. Getting them to be the program that it was when I was in high school. Getting them back to that. And just winning the moment now. And then just try to get the kids out of there and into college. I mean, those were our main two focuses, in building that program. I didn't really think ahead at all. I wasn't thinking ahead until probably after my fourth year I started thinking about it. But early on, no, it was just let's get this thing going, let's build this thing, and, let's make it the best program in the state.
Those are the coaches who are listening out there. And actually, as soon as I put it out there, I knew a lot of coaches would be interested in listen to it. What was your philosophy when taking over Paramus Catholic? It wasn't a powerhouse. It was kind of like, I guess, middle of the road. They've had some good years. They had some not so good years. What was your philosophy from a coaching standpoint, and how you were going to get it revved and rolling?
That's a good question for sure. I think, I guess the main philosophy was just putting in the work. Is getting the guys to work and buy in to building something, and understanding it wasn't going to come, right off the bat, and it was going to take an effort, and even for the guys that were seniors there, that they were going to lay the foundation and might not necessarily reap the benefits. And when I got there, I'd say there was 40 kids on the team. There was some talent, and when we started workouts, that talent kind of went away and left, and some people had transferred because they weren't used to what it was. I think the main thing that we wanted to do is we wanted kids to come to Paramus Catholic to be football players, and then fit into the school, if that makes sense, rather than, hey, I want to go to Paramus Catholic and I'm just going to happen to play football. We wanted to switch that mentality. We wanted guys coming in that were coming there to play football, and then obviously mesh into the school and want to be a part of the school and everything like that. So we were able to, when we got in there, we just worked them really, really hard and set the tone for what was to come, and just lived with the guys that wanted to stay and wanted to be a part of it, and took pride in the school and wanted to do that, and then just build from there. And then we just were able to bring in a really good class that next year right away, and that was the foundation to who we were. Is the guys that a couple kids that come over from Westwood that I had been coaching, got a couple kids that came over from Englewood. Westwood and Englewood were really good rivals. The 2 years of me being a junior coach, we went back and forth with Englewood. They won one, we won one, and got to know those guys and kind of built the foundation there with that first incoming class. And and then they graduated as two-time state champions and went on, and a ton of those guys were able to play college football and things of that nature. So, but I guess the philosophy was, set the tone early and just know that it might not come early. It might take a while. You got to put it in perspective and just work your butt off.
I think the thing of changing the culture is obviously one of the things that most coaches, that's the biggest challenge. I dealt with it when I was at Palisades Park and changing the culture, and it's different than at Paramus Catholic, and every place is different. What are some of the things that you think are necessary for changing the culture in the program, trying to turn guys into winners when, before that it was, people, they lost, they go, oh, it's okay, or they would accept losing, or people throughout the school and say, oh, it's no big deal, this is what always happens. How do you change that culture?
I think the best way to do it, I mean, looking back really, is how we did it is, I don't think you can come in there, day one and take over a program and say, this is how the culture is going to be, this is how we're going to do it. You got to have your philosophies, you got to understand and have a mindset of how you want to do it, but then you got to be able to have some wiggle room and move around and see what type of kids you're getting and what type of culture the school already has in place. And you can't destroy tradition. You gotta figure out how to feed off of what tradition was there, and and kind of change it that way. And that's what we were able to do. We didn't go right in and do things to change it right off the bat. We kind of left it how it was in year one and just surveyed it and just made them understand what the work ethic was going to be, but then let the culture develop throughout that year and into the next year and who we really wanted to become. I hadn't been in North Jersey football for a while, so I needed to see the landscape and how we were going to do it. I mean, we were going against some giants, Don Bosco and Bergen Catholic and St. Joe's and, St. Peter's, all those guys. And so I had to kind of survey and see how we were going to be different, how we were going to attract kids, how we were going to fight those guys off. And but, I'll tell you one thing, from day one, I never for 1 second let it be acceptable to lose a football game or to lose one of those guys. I mean, I don't even remember the score, but Bosco beat us 60-something to nothing, the first year. And I made sure I told those kids, this is unacceptable. This is not who we are. This is not who we're going to be. And, it's not okay whether mom or dad or your uncle or anyone says, oh, they're just better. That's not okay. You want to play football here, you're gonna win, and kind of set the tone there, but let the culture take care of itself throughout, and that. So I think that is those are two important things to do is take some time in developing your identity, but at the same time, set a winning culture and not let losing be acceptable.
Well, I think that flexibility and adaptability that you had, I think as a coach is a hallmark of, in my opinion, of great coaches. They have to be guys that can see what kids can do and what they can't do and adapt their coaching philosophy to what you have, and then what you obviously, as you bring in better guys, you can readapt that philosophy on an ongoing basis, and that fluidity I think is so key. You guys had a cool, I mean, the black uniforms, the Livin philosophy. Where did that come from? How did that emerge? There's been so many stories throughout Bergen County, and people throughout the country are listening to this don't know about that stuff. But how did that emerge and become a thing, and kids gravitated towards it? Where did that come from?
I mean, yeah. So we kind of got there, and now that I'm looking back, we were kind of a power offense and, cover 3 defense the first year, and we had the gold helmets, and, and then, we're going against, St. Joe's and Bergen had the gold helmets. Bosco was the power offense, and, I just felt like there's no way we're competing with what these guys have been doing for 20 years, with who they are. So we kind of just, as we started getting certain kids in, we kind of started taking the bad boy mentality. Like, I just felt we had to be different, and I don't know, my personality, I don't mind being that. I didn't mind doing that. I just felt like that's the way we were going to win. We couldn't try to be them. We had to be the polar opposite of those guys. And so we changed our helmets to black. We went with the sleek black uniforms. We went with the smoke coming out, and the kids all of a sudden started like saying, "Wow, this is pretty cool. It's different." So if you want to be different, come to Paramus Catholic. And so we kind of went that route, and the Livin thing just kind of came about. One of my best friends is played professionally for a bunch of teams. I think he had 8 years in the league, and he was home training one summer, and I went and I started training with him, and then we just started talking about our lives and how because he went to Lafayette with me and how he's in the pros, and I said that's awesome, but what I'm doing now, I love it. I wouldn't give it up for the world, and it kind of came out, well, we're both living. Well, So then we took off from there. We talked to the team about it. I remember him giving a speech to the team about it. What Livin is. You're out here working, and you're together with your team, and you're going to a great school, and you love each other, and you're playing the best game, best sport in the world, and so you guys are all living. And then those guys, kind of took off with that, and so it kind of became our motto, and just went from there.
That's really interesting, and it just obviously caught fire, right? So you guys really built off that. Obviously, one of the star players was Jabrill Peppers, and obviously you have a great relationship with him. He's with you at Michigan, and you had Rashawn Gary, who now is over at Michigan. As far as building relationships with your players, what are some of the things that at Michigan, and the Paramus Catholic that you feel you've done that really helps players really relate to you, connect with you, want to play for you?
Yeah, I think I think the main thing with the players is you got to be honest with them, and it's got to be an honesty whether it's what they want to hear or what it's not. Or if it's not what they want to hear. I think, it's got to be the truth all the time. And I feel like some coaches kind of just tell kids what they want to hear because they don't want to deal with it, or maybe they try to get the kid in their program or whatnot. I think, with what I was able to tell, what I told any kid that ever went through my program or any parent that ever went through my program, nothing was ever a lie. They couldn't ever come back to me and say, that's not the truth. You lied to me. This is it. So, I guess it was able to, the connection was able, because all the parents out there, they knew that what I said was going to be the truth, And the other thing was just, when someone joined my team, I stuck up for them through and through, like they were my own blood, no matter what happened. Those are my guys, and I stuck up for them, good or bad or whatnot. And, and I always said as I kind of grew through the fourth and fifth year, I'm sure how, the other coaches were attacking us and we were the bad guys and everything like that, and I always tried to protect the players on the team and take the brunt on me and not care, and not care what was coming at me, but protect those guys because, and what was the most important thing to me is what they thought, what the parents and the kids and my coaches thought of me. And, it almost became a pride thing. When more people started attacking and talking, talking smack, it was almost like I enjoyed it even more. As our Paramus Catholic bond grew, as our players grew and our name grew, we became more and more kids and parents and fans saw the goodness of it. And so I guess, I think, that was a kind of a long-winded answer, but, I just think honesty, be honest, good or bad, be as honest as you can at all times, and, and then just fight for your players, and hold them accountable. Kids nowadays, you can't trick a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, so if one of their teammates is doing something and you let them off, that other teammate knows, so you got to hold every kid accountable, like the saying. There's no one better. There's not one person on a team that's better than anyone else. And just like Jabrill Peppers, I held him accountable for every action he did. No matter who was, whether he was our best player, which he was, or our worst player, they all had the same, discipline. They were all held to the same accountability.
And what do you think made Jabrill? I mean, obviously, he's blessed with he works his butt off with speed and athleticism, but what makes him such a difference maker? What was he willing to do that, the average run-of-the-mill kid is not willing to do that makes him different?
He is a worker. The kid practiced like every practice was a game. Through high school, in college, through it's the same thing that makes Rashawn Gary. I mean, he goes 110 miles per hour at all times. They love the game of football, whether it's practice or a game. They enjoy being here. They enjoy being around the team. They enjoy getting better. And Jabrill is he's so bright, he's so smart. He can take on so many different roles. He plays offense, defense, special teams, and he studies it and he understands it. And he doesn't understand what he's doing. I mean, he's playing so many different positions for us at Michigan, and as a safety, he could tell you what the front is supposed to do. He just he's a passion and loves football. I don't know how many kids, truly love playing football, nowadays. Jabrill's a guy who truly loves playing the game of football, and no matter whether it's a practice, no matter when it's a workout, no matter whether it's, whatever it is, a meeting, he enjoys it. He loves the game. So I think that's really what makes him who he is, and why he's going to be successful. He's going to go and be successful in the NFL because he's never going to want to do anything to give it up or not be the best. He loves playing.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that could end up going, who knows how high, but he could end up being top 10. He's definitely going to be in the first 2 rounds, as long as he stays healthy and keeps performing well in training, which I'm sure he will. He was. I always thought one of the things that I tell this to kids all the time. I used to say about LeBron James that even though he was a basketball player, he played football. The reason he didn't play his senior year was because he had actually hurt himself in basketball in the summertime and had an injury. So, but with Jabrill Peppers, he ran track. He was a state 100-meter champ, and you see so many kids that will give up other things in high school. At the expense of football. Jabrill loved football. No one loved football more than he did, but he knew that track will help him be a better football player. He enjoyed competing. What are some of the things that you really look for in a player? Is you looking for someone that wants to compete? To become a Michigan guy. What kind of player is that?
I love guys that play a ton of sports, to be honest. I mean, it's kind of, as a staff, we like that, So it's like, you're going to be a great football player. You're going to get on the basketball court and be a great basketball player. You're going to run track. You might play baseball. You might be a great baseball player. I love guys that are out there, just competing in anything, and not quitting all the other sports because, they want to be just a football player. And that's fine, too, as long as you're training and competing. But I love the multi-sport guys. I mean, I think we look at that, and I look highly on those guys, and so I think that's important. And I think guys that just like, you got to try to find out if they really love football, or do they love Twitter, or do they love recording 30 offers, or do they love playing the game, do they love their size because they're 6'6", 240 pounds and can run a 4.8. And they can, and everyone looks at them and loves them, or do they love getting on the football field and playing the game and working and being part of a team? Those are the guys that we look for. The guys that are, just love everything about it, and are willing to put in the work for it. I mean, the bottom line is the recruiting process. That thing, it's like you get recruited by all these schools and you're loved up, but when you step on campus, there's not a college in America that's successful that isn't a whole lot of work, that isn't going to make you, think about why you play the game. It's work to be successful. It's you're training, you're going to classes, and you're going to study hall, or going to academic services, and it's a full-time job for these guys. So you got to get the ones that truly love it, and those are the ones that are successful.
How do you identify that? Because today, I mean, obviously, it's different than when we played. There was no Twitter. There was no Facebook. I couldn't shoot myself live while I'm talking to you. What is it that? How do you decipher through the kid that just wants to post? Because that drives me crazy. Like, I don't need to know every single offer you have. I get it. You got 10 offers. You know what I mean? Once you get to a certain point, you're one of the top guys in the country. You don't have to tell everybody every single time, And I think even on the player side, it's fake when a player goes and says, God bless, I got my 30th offer from Michigan or Virginia Tech or wherever. Be real. Like, are you about playing the game, or are you about being the best? I'd rather see you training in your videos than posting every time you get a college on there. How do you decipher through all that to find the guys that are Michigan guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't you can't knock guys out that tweet and say that, because it's just a product of who they are now as kids, right? So, whether they're posting and they're hyping themselves up, you can't say, well, that's not a kid we want, right? Because you don't know. That's just kind of how they all do it at this point. But I think that the main deal is you got to listen. You got to listen to the high school coaches. You got to listen to the player. You got to listen to the parents and let them talk. It's so funny. I mean, at Paramus Catholic, I'd sit in there and a college coach would come in to talk to one of the players, and they literally would talk for 20 straight minutes and not say a word. And then they'd walk out, and another guy would come in, and he'd talk for 20 straight minutes, and the player would never say a word. And another guy would walk in, and he'd talk for 5 minutes, and he'd ask questions, and he'd engage the players. And then you ask the player, well, who do you like? What schools did you like today? And they always say the guy that let them at least communicate, that let them talk. I feel like, in recruiting, you find out who they are by allowing them to tell you who they are, allowing them to communicate with you and actually talk to you, and not only just sell your school and talk to them, and because you want to find out who they are. Because when they come onto your program, when they're away from home and they step foot on here, and they're homesick, and you need to know why they're homesick, who they're missing, what's their hot button, who they are as a player, and I don't think enough people do that, So we just do it by, I just talk to them, I find out who they are as a person before I find out who they are as a player, and that allows you to understand who they are as a player. It also makes it better when they step on campus here. You know how to coach them, and you know how to, avoid the problems that you might have, and all that stuff. So, it's just I just think it's just being a person and talking and communicating and being a good communicator and a good listener.
Very, very interesting.
And you obviously talk to everyone around them. I mean, we do our homework now. We talk to their coaches, to their guidance counselors, to their favorite teachers. To their brothers, to their sisters, to mom, dad, to their teammates. It's all about just getting to know everyone that's in their circle and around them.
How important is the high school coach to you in the process? Because obviously, I run the camps and stuff, and I always tell kids all the time that the high school coach and having a great relationship with the high school coach is ultimately going to be the key, because the college coach is going to ask your high school coach what they think about you. And if that is a lukewarm response, or if it's not glowing, there's going to be question marks about you. And I think a lot of parents, and this will help, I guess, on the parent side and the kid side of things who end up listening to this, how important is that relationship with a high school coach to a college coach who is recruiting them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's extremely important. There's a number of kids that we stopped recruiting because we didn't like the answers the high school coach was given, and it's not just like the coach doesn't have to badmouth a kid for us to get it, to understand. But it's well, why isn't he a captain? Or shoot, I throw on film sometimes with the coach and say, hey, why did he loaf on these 3 plays? What was the reaction? Why did he play like this? Why did he do this? Or, we asked the high school coach a ton of questions, and, most of those guys are honest because they don't want to put their name on, on someone that's going to come and fail, and, and you're going to be calling them all the time, and the kid's not a worker, and, and stuff. So, the high school coach relationship is extremely important, is working well with your coach, taking coaching, working hard within the team. And, we dig and ask questions to the coaches so that, we can find out the right answers. So I think, it's everything. I mean, it's one of the biggest things for sure.
Absolutely. Your transition to high school and college is, I would say, is unique. Probably every high school coach, head coach in the country has aspirations of what you were able to successfully do. Obviously, you're still building your career. You're a young guy. How do coaches transition from being a high school coach to going to college? And what are some of the key things that they have to do in order to, if they want to, go and transition into that next phase?
I think, the biggest thing is well, you have to understand the game of football first and foremost, right? I mean, you gotta understand, you gotta love football, right? You gotta love the game, and you gotta love teaching young men the game. That's the easiest answer. If you don't love that, and if you just want to do it just like the kids, just to try to jump in, and you're not willing to get in and understand the ins and outs of coaching, it's not for you. But the main thing I think is just your humbleness and your work ethic, and what you're willing to do. I mean, shoot, I got here and as kind of a recruiting assistant, and it was like I didn't any job. There's no job too small, and it's to this point too. I mean, there's just no job too small as a college coach, and you just gotta be humble and be willing to learn. I'm like a sponge for everyone, and trying to learn as much as possible. I had the special teams coordinator from Bowling Green here yesterday, and we sat all day, and I learned a tremendous amount from him, just listening to him talk and stuff. So I think, your humbleness to be willing to learn, and then, your work effort, your willingness to put in a ton of work. My first year here, I mean, there wasn't a day in the first 6 months where I didn't, work 18 hours, on any little thing that I can do. Whether it was sitting in with any of the coaches to learn or try to figure out recruiting, or shoot, if they asked me to clean the garbage, out of the trash can, I would jump up and make sure I did it better than anyone else. I wanted to do every job better than anyone else could do it. That was my mindset. Any job, any task I was given, I wanted to be the best task that's ever been done. And it's like, for me, I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. And I just try to do everything to the best of my ability, and I try to take on more. I try to take on as much as I can. It's like I want more. I don't care what the job is. I want more responsibility and more responsibility. And, those are all the things that kind of in my mind that I try to do. And, I think that's kind of how it has to be to make the jump, is like, you got to be willing to learn as much as you can and want to take on as much as you can, more and more and more.
No doubt about it. I think that people who coach in high school don't realize that when you go to college, when you first start out, it's just like starting out all over, just like it is assistant, or when you were a player, you're the top guy in high school. You go to college, you're now at the bottom, you got to start all over again and be willing to constantly rise to the top and do whatever it takes to do that. What was the connection between you and Coach Harbaugh? What makes that relationship so special? Because I saw it at the camp you guys ran at Paramus Catholic last year, and I could see that level of trust that he has for you and what you do. Tell me about that relationship and what makes it so special.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what makes it so special. I just for me, it's like I believe in everything he says and does. Like he's pure. I mean, he's trustworthy. He doesn't lie to the players. He works his butt off. He's a guy that you can look up to and say, he's a guy that you feel comfortable of. If you're putting in, 7 days a week of 18 to 20 hours, to look over and know that the head coach is working just as hard. That's who he is. To know that if he's telling you something, or that he's telling one of the players something, that it's the truth. To have an open line of communication. I feel like he's the best coach in the country. For these players. It's just, he's there for them, and it's kind of what you aspire to do and be, and he's there for the staff, and then he's not, he's a worker, so he's not like if I go to him and I say, hey, I want more responsibility. I need to do more. My first year, I was like, give me more. I want to do more. And he's going to give you more. He's gonna let you come up with ideas and run with them, and and let you coach. I just think he's a tremendous person to work for, and everything that I've done, for him from day one. I've tried to do it better than anyone else has ever done it, and take on more responsibilities. And I've been successful doing it. So I think he has a trust for me. And of course, I always look out for his back. And he's the program, and I'm going to make sure that we kind of have his back and stuff like that. So the relationship is great and continuing to grow. And I just try to do anything he asks of me, and I believe in what he's doing. And I think those are two really important things.
Yeah, and I get the impression that you'll be willing to get and sleep at somebody's house if you need to as well, or pick up a bed. I love the great stories I hear, about the recruiting. And I say, it's so funny because when you're in the space that I am around high school coaches, around parents all the time. And I listen to them, and I listen to, when people criticize, and then when also people say things positively. And I when I listen to what you did at Paramus Catholic, and how you were different, you build things differently, and how Coach Harbaugh does things his way and builds things differently, I always think to myself that when a guy has an ability to not worry about what the outside world is saying and focus on their task, focus on what they think will help them be successful, I think it allows them greater levels of success than anybody could ever imagine. I think people gravitate towards that, and it's one of the things that I would say the pundits miss those kind of things. Like, I love when I see someone who does things the way that he thinks, and his program thinks should be to be successful. And that's something I think that, obviously did at Paramus Catholic, and Harbaugh does it at Michigan. And I love it, because I laugh when guys go, well, he pissed off so-and-so. Well, if I'm trying to be the best, you know what? Not everybody's going to love me. That's how it's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
There are people that are rooting for me, and those are the people closest to me, and there are people that are rooting against me. And sometimes people closest to me turn on me, and I always think, who cares? My goal is to be successful and to figure out how I can do that. Your goal at Paramus Catholic is to help those kids be successful. I always say, if you help those kids be successful, ultimately you become successful. And kids, sometimes parents don't always see it, but kids know. You can't fool the kids. They know someone cares about them. Obviously, my father's coached track for, 50 years now. And he was one of my first, I think he might have been my first interview in this. And the first thing he said to me was just critical. I said, what do you think has been the foundation for what makes you successful? He says, caring. And he said, okay, well, I started kind of prodding. He said, caring. I said, well, and he's known as, can track. People will think he's a maniac, and but he cares about the kids, just like you care about the kids, and Harbaugh cares about the kids, is willing to do whatever it takes to help those kids. And that caring, people don't realize that underlying caring is the difference, because they'll go to the wall. They're young, and they can decipher the difference between someone who cares. I always laugh when I see a guy who might have some success, but the players don't gravitate towards him. And I know it's one thing. I know that guy doesn't care about the kids. He cares about himself.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, sometimes the people are like, hey, why does he do this? Why? But yet he's winning, and all the kids gravitate toward him. It's because the kids know he cares.
Of course.
I see it in what you do, and that's what I think is a difference maker about you.
I think that's that's tremendous advice. Dad's spot on with that. It's like, it's not about what other people are saying. It's about what the kids in your program are saying, and it's funny. People will talk and spit a ton of venom and and say whatever they want, but ultimately, you think about it like this. Okay, well, I have every player that's ever played for me at my back. Who do you have at your back? When you're talking smack, or what I'm saying. So you got to kind of look at it like that, and and of course, I always will put the kids, ahead of myself, and I will always put the parents, the families ahead of myself of the kids that are playing for me. And Jim Harbaugh is the same exact way. He's always going to put the team ahead of himself, and and it doesn't matter what other people are saying, because what you're doing for your guys is right. And that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to down with me. I do want, kids have been, while I've been on this Periscope Live, they've been writing messages over and over again. How do they get film in front of you? What would you say? Because obviously so much misinformation, right? I'm sure you're inundated with huddle links all day long, and you want more information than just the huddle link. What if someone was to get in touch with you, a player or a parent, to get their film in front of you? What information do you need in front of you to want to look at their link? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the best thing is, we're going to look at the link. Anyone that emails, the recruiting department, we make sure that we vet it all, and we're going to look at it. But I think the best thing is, because, you do get inundated, and, you get a million people sending, Twitter messages and emails. It's just easy information. So name, school, cell number, mom, dad name, cell number. Obviously, you're going to have the email if they send you an email. The link and attach a transcript, and then we can take it from there.
Perfect. That is perfect.
Keep it simple, keep it sweet, send it, and then we'll make sure we get it looked at for because the bottom line too is, even if we like the tape, with the transcript, well, before we do anything, we're going to get that transcript. So, high school coach's cell number would be important. That's, for us, that's easy to, once we know the school, we have all the high school coach's number, but might as well put it in there, just so it's easier, and we'll make sure we get it looked at. Cool.
Listen, I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your day, and this is the truth. I sat back when you rose Paramus Catholic, and I just thought, this guy's got something. And obviously I remembered you from when you recruited at the Citadel, but I thought, this guy's got something special, and this guy is really, really doing something that is just amazing at Paramus Catholic. And then obviously when you're at Michigan, you're doing some amazing things there. And I love how you think differently. Don't ever lose that ability to think differently and think outside the box, and getting after it. And I just tell you, I have great respect for what you've done and what you're doing. I think it's magical. I really, I say it, and I always say that so many high school coaches want to do what you've been able to do successfully. And obviously you're at the beginning of your career, but the determination and tenacity and the willingness, to do what is necessary to be successful. I think you have that over, virtually anybody else, and it's to be commended.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. It's the bottom line is, it's all about, in this business, and in what we do, it's all about, what you do next, so you gotta keep working, and you gotta keep staying humble, and you gotta keep getting better, or else nothing in the past means anything. So, it's important. So I'm gonna keep working, and I appreciate you having me on, and anything I can do, let me know.
Coach, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and obviously we'll keep talking. We'll talk real soon, hopefully to the next time I'll see you real soon in New Jersey this summer. So,
okay.
Have a great day.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, man. Bye.
All right. That was Chris Partridge, the special teams coordinator in Michigan, tremendous high school coach. On the podcast Successful Life, I think he really summarized some amazing things. I think his dedication to his players is amazing. Interestingly enough, I didn't touch on this, but he played for Kevin. He knows Kevin Higgins from Lehigh, who actually recruited me when I was coming out of college. Lehigh was one of the schools I was considering because of Kevin. I think his willingness to put his players before everything, and and really developing them and changing the culture and being able to adapt was tremendous. Listening to what his recruits, the kids that he's recruiting, what they have to say, learning about their personality, I think is fantastic. We didn't break down X's and O's because I was so intrigued with what he has done and obviously the top players that he's had, but building that belief and that trust within people that you're going to do what you're going to say you're going to do and be successful is second to none. So that was my interview with Chris Partridge, Michigan linebacker, special teams coordinator. Fantastic interview. Anyone should definitely take a listen to that. I'll put it on the podcast, and the Success for Life will be on iTunes. You check it out. Definitely take a look at it, and we'll see you all soon.